Oh, something's been laying in here. All this moss is mulched up. Ferns are flattened down. Huh. Fishing rod. Comparison. All this moss is completely turned upside down. Mulched right up. Something's been laying down right here. Big tree right here. Huh. No droppings anywhere. Where am I? I'm on the Sarita River. And it's hiked up a ways. Where am I now? I'm on the Sarita River. I hiked up a ways. It's kind of fun. I mean, I don't care if I catch a fish or not, to be honest. This is just absolutely wicked being out here. And there's a pile of elk prints in the riverbed here, so I was kind of hoping I might come across a herd of elk and be able to videotape them. But we'll see what happens here behind me. Anyway, wouldn't that be pretty freaking awesome if a great big huge bull came walking out behind me with some cows or whatever in the distance I never saw him. So I think this is river number 6 or something on this trip. And not seeing any human prints on this riverbed so far. There's lots of elk. But we'll see what comes up behind me. If anything, one of these times it probably will. It has in the past, right? Bears and deer and stuff. But anyway, I was thinking about a few things on the way hiking, you know, and there's a few solid things that are for certain with these beings that I can relay. Is number one is they've basically told many people that they don't like guns, and that's a fact. That's one thing for certain. They don't like guns, and by their reactions to gun barrels pointing at them with people I have spoken to firsthand, that basically the way they react tells us flat out that guns can hurt them. If they couldn't hurt them, they wouldn't give out that supreme attitude when guns are pointed at them, and they wouldn't duck behind the tree when the gun's pointed at them, which I have had that specifically told directly to me from the people that have had it happen to them. So there's one item you can take that to the bank, that these beings do not like guns, and guns can harm them. And another thing, I was talking to David Plyce about this quite a while back, was the connection of these beings and elk. There seems to be a very strong connection of popularity of sightings where these beings are, is as well where there is substantial amount of elk running around, and that seems to be very, very common. So I could say with absolute confidence that where there's elk, there seems to be these beings. And actually, because it's funny, for years before that, noting that, I could always tell people with confidence that where you find elk, you find grizzly bears too, up in the Northern Rockies where we guide and hunt. And so anyways, that's a couple items there. And for all you people that think you're going to intentionally catch these beings on trail cameras, if you think you're going to do that, you're going to have to be very, very good. That's something that nobody's good at yet. And I have an extreme history with, I have a very lengthy history of using trail cameras in North America. And I have caught a lot of wildlife on trail cameras. And I'll tell you what, I'll give you guys a little challenge that you can get warmed up on. If you think that you are good enough to dupe these beings and expose themselves on a trail camera, catch them on a trail camera, then you should be able to do the following quite easily. And here's your challenge to get warmed up to ensure for yourself that you're good enough with a trail camera to catch these beings, okay? Are you ready? Intentionally catch wolverine mating on a trail camera. Intentionally do that successfully. Or successfully and intentionally catch cougars mating on trail camera. What else could we do for a warmer upper? Intentionally catch a wolf taking down a moose on a trail camera. You know, there's all sorts of things that I guess what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of things out there that happen all the time that have never been caught on trail camera ever before. Okay, you guys? So for a lot of you people out there who are freaking out and screaming, all these trail cameras all over the place, they never catch them on them. Well, there has been a handful of them have slipped up and have been caught on trail camera. Google it up. Use your own fingers for that. But on the average, trail cameras just aren't good enough. They're not good enough yet. Whatever we're missing, whatever they're seeing, wherever they're seeing it from, trail cameras are basically getting laughed at from these beings. All right, that's just all there is to it. But I guess my previous mention is I was laughing to myself thinking about the numerous things that go on in the woods nonstop and never, ever, ever get caught on trail camera. Right? How many times have you seen a cougar die of natural causes right in front of a trail camera? If you ever heard of that, show it to me. I'd like to see it. But I'll guarantee you, cougars die of natural causes in the wilds all the time, and nobody's ever caught it on trail camera. Okay? Same with catch a grizzly bear dying a natural death on trail camera. Intentionally do that. Figure it out. Do it. Show me somebody that's caught that on trail camera. You see what I'm getting at? There's so many different items and scenarios that never get caught on trail camera. I guess I don't know if that can relate to what I'm trying to say or not. Because obviously those animals do get caught on trail camera. I will agree with that. They do get caught on trail camera. But I guess what I'm just saying is there's a lot of one in a millions out there that never get caught on trail camera. Still today with things that we know about. All right? But that's one thing I can say with confidence is trail cameras aren't good enough to catch these beings on intentionally. They just aren't. Bit of a ramble there. But let's get on to some emails while I'm here. What I've been trying to do is I take a break and then I share a pile of emails. What do we got? This came from the comments. These are screenshots sent to me. All right. See if I can read this. Kind of small font when it's screenshot like that. Back in 1989, I was about 16. And I was tracking and handling hounds for a big game hunter named C.J. Prock. His main hunting cabin where he would meet all his clients and kept his dogs was in Young, Arizona, a small town where people would wave at each other as he drive past one another. One evening, he asked me to go up Cherry Creek a couple miles into the canyon and look to see if there are any bear tracks because we had two guys coming from Phoenix, which is where I'm from. They wanted to use their tags before the season was up. So I took my little 40-pound pit bull with me, like I always did, and headed out for the long hike. Well, on the way back to base camp, my dog suddenly stopped and began this with a soft, deep growl that she did whenever she was in the presence of a bear or lion. I taught her to do this, so I knew what was going on. So as I normally did, I stopped and I squatted down with her between my legs and one hand on her collar and quietly listened. She started to act really weird, like wanting to bug her off or spook, trying to go the other way of the direction she was growling at, which kind of freaked me out because she was not afraid of anything, but I couldn't hear or see what she had been telling me. That's when I heard twigs snap from something moving closer to us. This is when my dog pulled loose from my grip and with the tail between its legs took off towards home. This really freaked me out because she's never done this before, leaving me by myself with nothing but my flashlight and what I thought could have been a black bear. I stood up and clicked my light on in the direction of the movement to shoo a bear before I was mauled, and that's when I saw it. It was 7 foot tall, very skinny humanoid, and it put up its hand to block the light from its face. I was in complete disbelief of what it was about 30 feet from me. Now the sight of this thing scared me so bad I tried to turn and run, but as it began to move, its hand dropped and it looked right at me. And that's when I realized it was doing something to me where I was paralyzed and could not move. It slowly started to move and began to panic and I began to panic and started to yell for my dog, who came running back to my position. While my pit bull was about 8 feet from me, she suddenly stopped like she was frozen time with only her head barking and growling as this thing in front of us. With only her head barking and growling at this thing in front of us. When I heard it moving again, I started to feel my heart drop and my legs began to get a rubbery feeling. I had never been that scared before to where my legs wanted to give out. But as I turned around to face this thing, I realized it was not moving closer to us, it was moving away. For the next 30 seconds maybe, I watched this thing disappear into the dark woods, and that's when my dog and I were free to move again. I suddenly feel to my hands I suddenly fell to my hands and knees, and my dog started to run after it. Looking up with my flashlight, I called for her to come back. Reaching for her as I pulled myself up to my feet, I took off jogging with her by my side all the way home to base camp. Never telling anyone what happened that night but a couple of my best friends back in Phoenix a couple months later. Watching this video brought back a flood of memories that I had forgot all about these years. I'll be 50 next April. I guess I had blocked it out all this time. Wow. Now I hear what you were reading on your phone. Oh my FG. Oh my God. I have chills and my heart dropped as I'm trying to type this out. It's taken me almost 35 minutes to do this comment because I'm so freaked out right now. It's not that I believe him, it's just that he just reminded me of that night and instilled I'm not tripping. I believe that this thing had ability to make you just freeze in your tracks, like some kind of mental thing or something like that. I don't know. But it did it to my dog too as it took its time to escape. It wasn't until I was out of sight of my dog that I regained control of my body. Okay. And that's what he wrote. And that was from, no name. All right, well, somebody saw your comment, screenshot it, sent it to me, and felt it might be handy to read it out. And so I did. And, I don't know, a couple of videos back I mentioned that I have a funny feeling there's something going on with our eyesight, our gaze, that's possibly there's just something going on with our eyes. There's something going on. And I have a feeling we all possibly maybe have had a skill with our eyesight a long time ago. And why I feel that way is because of some of these beings, once they see us looking at them, they run, they book. They don't want to be in our eyesight. And it's funny, I've come up on wolves in live traps that are absolutely not harmed or alive, and they don't want, as soon as they see you look at them, they avert eyesight. They just look away. They don't want to see you looking at them. They just go like this. And there's something about our eyesight, right? But imagine if we had that skill that these things have that can instill that. Imagine. It would be pretty tough to control us, wouldn't it? So that's something else. That's quite the comment. That's quite the experience. All right, what do we got here? Hello, Steve. I'm 50 years old now, and I've been hunting since I was 8 years old. About 15 years ago, I was bow hunting in central Wisconsin. My stand site was roughly half a mile off the road, way back in the valley. The shit show part is I had to walk through about 400 yards of standing corn. I got in my stand around noon when I was enjoying the wildlife. About 3 o'clock, 2.5 hours before dark, everything went silent, and I mean dead silent. There were no nuthatches, squirrels, crows, or anything making a damn peep. At that time, the hair on my neck stood straight out, and I felt as if I was being watched. I had a fear that I've never felt to date. I had contemplated getting out of my stand, but like you, I was going to have no part of losing my love for the outdoors. This is where it gets really unnerving. About 20 minutes after dark, I got out of my stand. As I was walking back to my truck, I felt the same fear again. I got to the cornfield and began thinking, what the hell am I going to do just a bow and arrow in the dark while in a cornfield? As I was walking through the cornfield, I could hear corn stalks busting behind me, what seemed to be about 20 yards behind me at all times. I would stop, and whatever was behind me would stop shortly after that. I could hear a low growl that's hard to explain. I've never been so frightened in my life. Through the entire cornfield, it seemed to stay the same distance behind me and would stop as I would stop, as if it was trying to drive me away from its area. I believe my heart had no intention of hurting me because it could have easily killed me in that field. It just wanted to scare the shit out of me, and it did at that. I never went back to that spot, not even to get my stand out of the tree. I would really like to get my story out, as you and my wife Brenda are the only people I've ever told. Brenda, I watch your videos, and she pushed me to tell you what happened that night. We want to thank you for telling our stories, for standing behind our beliefs. Stay safe, my friend, and thanks in advance. Okay, man. Shared. And I'll guarantee you have already heard your story on here dozens of times, right? And why these things do that to people, I haven't a clue. But I can tell everybody one thing with confidence is, for all you people that think you may have possibly been being herded into an ambush previously, or had one of these things attempting to stalk you for some sort of reason, That's not the case, right? It's just not the case. These things outclass us so fiercely. If they want you, they're just going to blatantly walk out in the wide open and walk right up to you and grab you. That's what they can do, obviously. So when something is that skilled and outclasses us so fiercely and is so intimidating, don't think for 1 second that they would have to attempt to herd you somewhere to get you to an ambush spot. You see what I'm getting at? It'd be like us, I don't even know how to describe it, it'd be like us attempting to herd a turtle into an ambush spot. We outclass that turtle in so many different ways with speed and cunningness and agility. We're just going to blatantly walk up to that turtle and grab it and pick it up, right? I guess that's not a bad comparison. Us stalking a turtle is probably about the same skill set as a Sasquatch would need to stalk us successfully, right? Show me I'm wrong. All right. Hi, Steve. My name is Mike. I live in Port Angeles, Washington. I moved here from Pennsylvania in 2017. I've been amazed by the sheer beauty and the climate of the rainforest out here. This story begins not long after I moved here. This winter, in early December, our dogs woke me at 3:30 a.m. Of course, I slipped on my slip-ons and went out to the door to let them out. Our little white mutt was already gone, and the black lab ran towards the open door, but stopped, as though he hit a glass wall, right at the door jamb, and he put his tail between his legs and ran to the bedroom. Steve, I have a quarter-century experience working in zoos and traveling to Africa, camping in parks in Kenya, unarmed with lions and leopard rustling against me through the tent material, and chasing black bear in Pennsylvania unarmed, staring down hippos, working with crocodiles, and venomous snakes. I was bitten by a cobra 30 years ago. Ugh, gross. I'm not afraid of wildlife. I was thinking it must be a bear, or maybe a big cat prowling nearby. I grabbed my walking stick and went out in the wide opening of our parking area and listened for activity in the dark jungle like blackness. I could hear the neighbor dogs from the reservation down the road half a mile going nuts, but I did not hear anything near our property moving. Or as I let my guard down and I was looking in the direction of the dogs, behind me in a quarry along the Ilwa River near the beach, I heard the loudest gorilla bark in the world. It was half a second, and I felt the ground shake and my chest shook. For the first time in my life, I think my voice would have been up an octave. My openings would have been watertight, and I was tiptoeing towards the door. I was scared. And I stared out the window for quite a while and had my first nightmare in decades the next night because of it. Fast forward a year later. Now, because of my cobra bites and daring attitudes with animals, I've suffered many cases of head trauma and neurological poisons. I suffer many crippling migraines. So I adopted a nighttime lifestyle to avoid the brightness of daytime to lessen the triggers of my pain. I'm up all night. While I was getting firewood in January 2019, I made several trips to our pavilion a few hundred feet out and back from the wood pile to restock the house. This particular night, every time I was outside, I could clearly hear a loud, deep, guttural moan coming from the other side of the quarry by the river, followed by a high-pitched weep whistle coming from the creek that feeds into the ocean on the other side of the property responding. I thought at first someone was pulling a prank until, when I was inside, I tried to mimic the weep whistle, and I could not make the whistle at the end of the P in the weep. It was the weirdest call. After about 4 trips, I was almost to my door. I decided to let out a whistle in response myself. They stopped. It went quiet. I've heard little things since then, but those were our most exciting things here in the past 3 years, right across the strait from Souk. Thanks for showing how crooked government systems can be and how common sense must prevail. Mike F. Elwha River adjacent. All right, Mike, thanks for that. And I used to live in Souk, actually. I grew up just outside of Victoria, looking at Port Angeles from my bedroom window every day I woke up. I never made it over to Port Angeles yet. I always wanted to. I was always curious about what was going on that side of the water. But one thing that has always really got my curiosity is what dogs know that we don't know. You know, a lot of people talk about these Sasquatch people like they are, they're harmless, they're not dangerous. Show them love and affection, and they'll show it back, and all this other stuff. But I'll tell you what, there's two beings that I trust their senses utmost, and that's children and dogs. They are absolutely still in tune with their sixth sense, especially children at a young age before it gets rubbed out of them in the school system, I'm guessing. But I want to know what it is that the dogs know. Why are they absolutely terrified of these beings? I want to know why. I want to know what. That curiosity just kills me sometimes. It's just like, come on, please, dog, tell me exactly what's going on. What is it? Just tell us. Tell us why. I want to know why canines are so frickin' terrified of these things. And it's not just one or two of these things. It's every single one of them. Every single time a dog is in the presence of one of these things, it is absolutely shitting itself. And numerous times these beings haven't shared any dogs any respect either, right? They've killed them. There's been dogs ripped in half and thrown against the porch door and cabins and stuff in the past. Many dogs have been killed by them. I don't know why they kill them. I don't know what it is going on between dogs and these things that is so is such a conflict. I wouldn't mind finding out. Wouldn't you? All right, what do we got? Hello, Steve. I love your work and your fearless approach. My name is James, and I've watched a lot of your videos on Bigfoot, and I love your cool, calm, collected, educated mindset on the subject matter. I'm a Christian man, and I've had over a dozen near-death experiences in my life. Positions of certain death. You're meant to live. As you reflected back on life, it has just came to recently, 2021. Back in Noah, the great flood was these Bigfoot beings on the ark. Back in Noah, the great flood was these Bigfoot beings on the ark. If not, how do they survive the flood? Or are they meant to be here for us to know who we are? Because humanity has been dumbed down, suppressed, and controlled for a reason, and it is not from my observation these Bigfoot beings are a threat. It's another dark spiritual being at work, and as you scroll back in history, there was always reptilians at work. Anyway, I'm effing rambling, and I know you like the Sasquatch real-life stories, to be specific. I'm from Australia, and I was a professional lobster, cray/shark fisherman on the coast of Apollo Bay called Cape Otway in southern Victoria. And one day, a monster wave hit our boat. We capsized, my father on deck, watching rogue waves as we navigated the storm. He died, and my uncle and I retrieved the body after the grace of God. Our capsized boat ridded itself upright. Now is pissed off young man. This is back in the year 2000. I'm 43 years old now. I was lost, confused. Family and friends wanted help, but I wanted time to center myself and find out my calling, searching for direction. I'm sad to hear your father passed away. That's not a good experience. I'm sorry to hear that. Now I loved bushwalking and the feeling of the outdoors. Nature, your whole being. Okay. Now I love bushwalking and the feeling of the outdoors. Nature, your whole being, and at one in nature, the smell of the rainforest, the positive energy, it's like meditation, the feeling of belonging. I was bushwalking every day, sometimes twice, like really getting into it. This place is called the Lower Carlimna Falls, near Lorne. This place is called the Lower Carlimna Falls, near Lorne, about 30 kilometers from Apollo Bay. But it's a 2-kilometer walk in from the picnic grounds to Lower Kalimna Falls. Then you have Higher Kalimna Falls, another 2 kilometers up into deep rainforest. Now this is when your whole world gets shaken to the core. I was bushwalking, about to reach Higher Kalimna Falls, when about 100 feet away, about 30 meters in front of me, I saw a baby Bigfoot Sasquatch. It stopped and looked at me about 10 seconds. It was 4 feet tall, dark brown, like dark brown fur coat, 2 inches thick, not real long, and it was smiling at me, and I was awestruck, not threatened. I remember thinking, what a cute looking thing with a human face. But what animal lives here? Did a baby gorilla escape from a zoo? No zoos in the area. As I was thinking, my mind going a million miles an hour, then I saw another tall, skinny, long fur, dark brown, 4-inch long coat, furry-ape creature, feminine, directing the smaller Bigfoot away. When it was surprised, scared of me, when this creature noticed, looking about 5 seconds as if I threatened it by being there. Then it shot off like so fast, like a split second, into the trees, then it poked its head back out of the forest tree ferns to see if I noticed its existence. This thing was shocked and scared as much as I was, but I feel it was threatened by me knowing I had seen it. but I feel it was threatened by me knowing it knew I had seen its camouflage. My bushwalking was over. I went back to thinking I just saw Bigfoot. WTF. I then proceeded to bushwalk for about a week to the other waterfalls in the area, but I went back because I wanted to bushwalk in this area. Period. The end. Now, as you, Steve, read out other people's real-life experiences, it brought back memories I've suppressed for over 2 decades. Now, the real shit. I've never shared this with family or friends. I went back bushwalking in this particular area a week later after this encounter, and everything changed every day. I noticed being watched, seeing a tree snap. There's no commas in the right places again, you guys. It's kind of difficult, right? I went back bushwalking in this particular area a week later after this encounter, and everything changed every day. I noticed being watched, seeing a tree snap like a human snapped a matchstick. I remember what or who could do this, but it was so different. Then I saw a big footprint. I put my shoe size next to it. Now I'm 11 inches. This footprint was 1.5 bigger, but the weight of its imprint into the earth was at least 1 inch. Now I'm putting it all together and what bushwalking. Now I'm putting all this together and went bushwalking every day. Not deterred, just wanted to be allowed to do what we were created to be. Day by day, week by week, I heard whooping sounds being followed on both sides. Then it progressed to whistling, then to loud bangs and knocks on trees, and then trees falling. I was so effing pissed I sent a psychic message like an emotional vibration. I'm scared of you, but I'm still going to be here. You have to kill me. Worst mistake. Just the very next day I went 2 kilometers into Lower Kalimna Falls. It's like a waterfall with a deep 20-meter cave where I used to drink water and read, but I felt real uneasy, like all my hairs in my back stood up. What I remember is complete silence in the forest. It's scary silence, dead, nothing, no sounds. Even the waterfall was not loud. Then I realized something bad is going to happen now. It's hard to describe, but your body is on edge. I was scared. I knew something bad was going to happen. And I heard a deep, unconscious voice saying, "Get out now if you want to live. You have 30 seconds. I effing ran so hard for 2 kilometers, I was out of breath. Hard to breathe all the way back to my car. Now, the very next day, I wanted to bushwalk. Okay, putting it all the things that has happened to me in the back of my mind, I'm going, looking back, I had a death wish. Oh my God. Now, the very next day, I wanted to bushwalk. Putting all of the things that was happening in the back of my mind, and I'm going, looking back, I had a death wish, nothing to lose, sick and tired of society's BS. I took a large knife, it was like a Rambo knife. I sent a psychic, emotional imprint to whoever wanted me to go and leave the area alive or dead. I'm coming now. Crazy as I was, I got to 2 kilometer stage to Lower Kalimna Falls. I was so angry, everything is being stripped away. And I'm a young man, I do no one any harm, and now all this shit. I threw the knife down in the zone, went walking up to Higher Kalimna Falls, saying in my mind, it's now or never. It started to rain. I always heard loud noises in the background, but I switched off. I didn't care if I lived or died. But it was raining, so I turned back and eventually picked up my knife, and I remember just looking into the forest about 10 minutes and turned around feeling really shitty. As I approached the clearing, the picnic grounds, I heard a loud roar. It's a roar that echoes louder over the distance, and I remember my hairs on my back was up, chills down my spine. These waves of motion or energy. This roar was not scared, but warned me, never come back. It lasted 7 seconds. So what do? I turned around and roared back with a 67's deep, loud vocal cords. I think it was my family's Dutch history in Australia, my father's side's anger, but I remember a spine-chill, whole-body emotion vibrating uncontrollably. As I drove off, I was done and never returned bushwalking for 20 years as I moved to Melbourne. Up until now, 2020, I go bushwalking with my wife and 4-year-old daughter. Not too far, just on bush trails. I'm sorry, Steve, this story was in depth, but the question is, these beings know who we are. We have forgotten as a human race who we are. We are creatures in God's self-image that looks like a human being. Well, so does Bigfoot look human. Maybe he or she has a spiritual connection we human beings have lost, that we need to get reconnected. I feel an uncontrolled urge to go back in the woods, to find out why we are suppressed and what we can learn from these beings. They're superior in the animal kingdom. Well, what are we as human beings? I think love for what you do brings happiness is a good place. Now to think about it, I feel these Bigfoot existences for mankind to remember who we are. Anyway, we are all alive to create this next story in history. I hope this story makes sense and encourages to help some people. I feel like a dick, but it's off of my chest. Cheers, James, East Coast. Whew. Okay, thanks, James. That was a tough read without commas and periods and a lot of it, all right? But I get what you're throwing down. It takes a pretty big set of kahunas to roar back at something like that that's roaring at you and to keep on going back. But it didn't kill you, right? So there you go. That's what I was saying a while back. I always wonder what it'd be like if one of these things was paralleling you, stopping when you stop, and you just turn and go running after it. Or swear at it, or throw rocks at it, and don't back down. And I wonder what would happen, right? But anyway, I got some hiking to do and some fish to catch.